Lillian Sarah Oliveri, founder and director of Kale Accountancy Ltd, a South London-based firm offering comprehensive accounting services to startups, small to medium enterprises, schools, law firms, healthcare providers, charities, and community interest companies. With over 25 years of experience, Lillian is not just an accountant, but a trusted partner who helps businesses simplify their financial management so they can focus on what they do best. Known for her approachable and supportive style, Lillian is proficient in leading software like QuickBooks, Xero, and Sage, ensuring clients receive top notch virtual or on site financial solutions across the UK. Passionate about making finances accessible and empowering business owners to meet their goals, she also hosts a podcast sharing insights and experiences from her own journey. Whether it's bookkeeping, financial planning, or demystifying accounting, Lillian brings clarity, confidence, and exceptional service to her clients. We'll be looking at managing your business as a Black business owner, navigating the challenges and opportunities that go with thriving as a Black business owner. Lillian, welcome to the studio and welcome to Prime Focus. And I'm so pleased you could make time for this. And I'm looking forward to you answering a couple of questions that I've tried to do my own research, look at things that people sometimes struggle with. I'm a Black business owner myself, and I thought this topic would be very exciting. So when you and I had a chat, I thought it would be great to delve a little bit more into this particular topic. Right. And so I'm going to start. First of all, a Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Right. Okay. So let me start a little bit on a personal note. What inspired you? I know you're going to be talking about financial management and all that, but you're also a business owner and probably maybe multiple businesses. So what inspired you to start your own business? And what challenges did you face or have you faced as a Black entrepreneur?
Thanks for having me on your show. I'm really excited about doing this interview. I think for me, starting my own business, I think it's always something I've always wanted to do. It's something I've wanted to do from very young, from I was 19 actually. But I never got around to do it. What I always ended up doing was little side bit hustles or just doing it in the evening just to support my main income when I was employed. But I think the main push was during lockdown, which tends to be the goalpost or the mark for a lot of people of changing and doing different things in the recent years. Is that during lockdown I was working for an accountancy firm, and I just thought, I think it's time I branch out and do this on my own. Even the other night I was talking to my husband and saying, oh, it's amazing that all these other places from 2007, I was working with lawyers and other people, and they were saying, Lillian, why don't you just start your own business? You can do it, you can do it. But I never felt it was the right time. And I think, as my grandmother said, there's nothing happens before it's time. So as much as it was a dream when I was 19, today I'm 48. Today's my birthday, today I'm 48.
Oh, wow.
So nothing happens before it's time. So I think for me, just felt like it was always something I always wanted to do. Actually wanted to go into catering to start my own restaurant. Desperately wanted to get out of accounts, and wanted to get done business plans, how many business plans for my catering or restaurants, Caribbean restaurant, but never actually set it up yet. So that's still on the back burner. I haven't given up hope on that. But I thought this is a field that I'm actually enjoying. And I think that working in the accountancy practice gave me that opportunity to see what it looks like working with clients and actually supporting them, hearing them saying, actually, I understand this now. It's great. In terms of the challenges I faced, I think you can often feel alone when you start a business. And I think it's really important to start building networks from the get-go or before you even start. Actually, if you have that idea and you think, actually, this is something I'm thinking about doing, reach out to people you see online. You'd be amazed at people that would just say, yeah, I'll actually give you free mentoring sessions and just talk with you. and help you along the way. Not everyone's going to say there's a fee. So don't feel
mm,
afraid to reach out to individuals and say, actually, could you give me some guidance? I see that you're doing this in your field. Is there any advice you can help me with? And that's what happened with me as well. I reached out to someone called Jackie Stewart. She runs her own accountancy business as well. I reached out to one of the best trainers actually for QuickBooks. She was training a session I was in before I started the business, and then I said, you know what, I'm going to reach out to her, and she
mm,
happily responded to my LinkedIn message, and we've been in touch ever since. She was a guest on my podcast. So those two women have been major supports systems, giving me advice about type of clients you take on, what you don't need to do, what you need to do, and that sort of thing. So it's really crucial to find the right people, your tribe, basically, your tribe that will
mm.
support you.
I like
You
that.
don't
Yeah.
necessarily want yes men. You want
Mm,
people who are going to give you sound advice that sometimes you're thinking you're going to have to sit back and reflect and say, do I really need to hear this? Do I like what they're saying? But it's they're honest, they want the best for you. So it's about finding that right tribe and group for you that will help you navigate and walk along this journey as a business owner, and especially as a
mm,
Black business owner. I think in England, it's it's very different to anywhere else I've seen it represented
mm,
on TV or where I go to the Caribbean. It's very different to how Black people run their business here, I think.
mm. Interesting insights there. First of all, though, the culinary skills. So, and you like cooking?
I absolutely love cooking. I don't even get to cook that often now, which
Okay.
is a bit strange. Um,
Mm,
my husband does most of the cooking now,
okay.
but I love to
Great.
cook. I love baking as well, so I do a lot of bakes, sort of cakes and treats and things like that, puddings.
Mm,
So I come from a family that we love our food and we love baking and cooking. So
right.
yeah.
Oh, I like that. Well, who knows? Maybe in the future we will see that business crop up and it'll be a go-to place. Yes.
Yeah.
Something is very important that you said there. Right from the beginning, you sought advice. So, for anybody who would watch this, advice is so important.
Mm.
Because a lot of people, oh, I know exactly what I want to do. Let me just run with it, and I'm raring to go. And we do not realize that there are others who have walked the journey before. You found
Yeah.
somebody in the same practice who was happy, maybe to take you under her wings a little
Mm.
bit, and I think that's great because for some, maybe, well, for men, maybe ego, why should I go to somebody else? I know what I'm doing. So thank you for sharing that part of it. Um, can you share a pivotal moment in your journey that has shaped the way you approach business ownership?
I think a pivotal moment in my journey. I think I'm very much a person who reflects a lot. I have quiet time, so I don't like I have my moments when I'm going out, socializing and watching TV, podcast, music, all that time. But there are times when I just need to stop and sit down and
Mm,
reflect. And I think last year gave me the opportunity. I think it was around Black History Month. I posted something about my ancestors, my grandparents, and I think my family is a bit. I come from a big family, so I have eight. There's eight of us as siblings, and
okay.
the history of my family, like my grandfather was a businessman, and I mentioned that in my post as well. As much as he was illiterate, didn't read, he was actually quite successful running a horse business. So he raised horses, sold them to owners, and they raced them in the Caribbean. And he also had multiple lands in the Caribbean and had that. So he had a good portfolio, property portfolio in terms of just land. Um, and I think it was hearing those stories, also seeing my sisters as well. They may not necessarily own their business or run a business, but it's that business mindset, how they're actually able to go into workplaces and may not be an entrepreneur, but an intrapreneur. And that's a
Right.
mentality or a mindset where you go, the company that you work in allows you to almost act as an entrepreneur on their behalf. So you're bringing ideas, you're bringing suggestions, you're making recommendations about improving systems and processes. And I think that's something that I really love among my sisters, especially in my family, and seeing how they work. So that's given me confidence as well to say, I come from a background of strong Black women who were smart in their industry. They're not all in terms of like white collar. I've got a sister who's a chef as well. How they work in their employments. So that was, I think, for me, a pivotal moment where I just was able to reflect and say, if they can do it, I can do it. May not necessarily be the same way in the sense of they've branched out and started a business, but it's a
mm,
case of they're doing that as an entrepreneur, that entrepreneurship skill that they've got, that they were doing that and using that within their employment. So I think that was a pivotal moment as well for me. And looking at my history is so important. I think, especially for Black people. Not saying it's not for any other race, but I think we love our history, we love our culture, and I think it's so great that you can sit back and look at other people and see how they did things and how they changed their life, the course of their life for the better, not just for themselves, but to help other people as well. So I think that was, I think my family have helped shape me a lot in terms of how
mm.
I run my business. And they still, even though they don't run their business, every now and then I chat with them and they're still offering me advice, good advice, actually, sound advice on my business. So, yeah.
Mm. That's great. I mean, hearing normally we would say read biographies of people, but you're so blessed that your family already has a history of
Mm,
entrepreneurship, which is good. And you use a very key word, which I'm not sure everybody's familiar with, entrepreneurship. And I like to talk about that sometimes when I do maybe lectures and stuff.
mm,
And that an entrepreneur is a very important aspect of building your mindset for business, because you're running somebody else's business like it's your own. You're going with that outside the box thinking, that diligence and all that. So it's great that, so anybody listening, you want to start your own business, you haven't yet started, you're working somewhere else, don't be in a rush just to jump out of the place.
mm,
Pick up the skills that are going to help you run that business like it's your own. Yes, you're building somebody else's business, but in the end, you also build networks that are going to be helpful to
mm,
you.
mm.
Yes, great stuff. Thank you so much, Lillian, for that. Let's look at the little area on challenges now. Um, from your experience, what unique challenges do Black business owners face when starting or growing their businesses, and how can they overcome them?
Um, I think it's about back to support. Um,
Mm,
and this is something, again, I talk about in my podcast when I was doing it, because I haven't done it for a while. But one of the questions that I always ask whoever I'm interviewing or having a conversation with is that, what is it that helps, what is it that you need as a business owner? How do you overcome those challenges as a Black business owner in the UK? And I think that number one thing is support.
mm,
I think even looking at young people who are coming up and starting a business, if they're in school and they don't even have the key skills or knowledge of what happens when you work for someone, let alone if you want to start a business, I think they've already got a challenge. They've already come across a barrier, because there's no education in school. And I'm talking like even year six in, I think there's not a problem teaching that in year 6 and 5 in primary school, and then take it to secondary school, in that kids do not have a full grasp or understanding of what happens in the real world if I become employed or if I want to run my own business. So case in point, so for example, if I'm working with a client who's quite young, they don't feel the need to, they feel passionate about what the product or the services that they're offering. They want to start a business. They have no clue about share a director's duties. They have no idea about dividends, drawings, setting up a
mm,
business on company's house, confirmation statements. I need to do that regularly. I need to have a business account. I need to manage cash flow. They have no clue, because they don't even have a clue about even employment. When they go into employment, what happens when you get your pay slip and you get the tax deduction, like what's happened? That there's not that education. So I think that the challenges that Black owners face is one, education and support is a key factor. And that's why I say, don't necessarily wait to see people, or people come to you. You go to them, you look for them and say, do you mind offering me advice? Do you offer Do you mind having a session
Mm,
with me and talking with me? And I think those are the challenges that those are the unique challenges I see in Black people, that there's an issue about education and support. Um, Governmental wise, I don't know of any organization that is specifically for Black people or people of color raising a business. If you look at ethnic minorities, again, they work with their own group of people. They do not wait on the government or anyone to create a forum, a support group, or whatever. They work with each other and they only recommend their own people, and they
mm.
build each other up and support people. That so support and education is really, really key in overcoming your challenges as a Black business owner, I think.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Well, hopefully somebody listening there and you've been wondering what the next steps would be, don't forget the two key phrases she used there: support and education. Let's come to the area of funding, because sometimes you would hear people, oh, well, nobody wants to give me, and the discrimination and all that stuff. And in my own little way, I have seen people go look for a bank loan, they didn't give it to them, and they don't have a good business plan, and things like that. So let's talk about that area. I mean, it's often cited as a significant barrier. What advice do you have for entrepreneurs, Black entrepreneurs who are seeking finance or investment?
I would say keep knocking until you get the right person that wants to work with you, partner. You're not just looking for a loan. I think you're looking for someone who really wants to genuinely support your business. So that, for example, if you default or can't make a payment, you can have that relationship manager to say, whether it's at the bank or an institution that offers money or loan to a business, to say, listen, if things go sour or things happen where the money coming in is not consistent, what's the plan in terms of helping me or giving me breathing space to make those payments? I think again also planning is important.
Hmm.
I've seen, like for myself, I had money put aside, that I put aside, and I said I can use that to start the business. So I was working, but I also had something else that I was doing, and I put that money aside so that I could use it for the business. So that's one option. Don't necessarily think that you have to always get a loan. I'm not a big fan of loans because of my history with loans. It's never been a good, how should I say, outcome, because of, again, the lack of education about handling money, getting loans, getting credit cards and things like that. So I think I don't necessarily like loans, but if you need to, then that's not a problem because it's a business loan. As long as you use it for business purposes and nothing else, just get the loan for the business to set up the business and keep things moving forward. So I think planning, budgeting is important. Seeking the right partner to get where you go and get that loan. And also, you, again, like I said, you don't necessarily have to get a business loan. What you can do is, some people are like a person I know, they didn't start, they've got the business started, but they've not left their employment. So what they're doing is they're working and building up that business as they're going along. So there's no need to rely on a loan. They've got their full-time employment, and that is just building up. I don't necessarily think it's a side hustle. It's actually a genuine business, but it's a case of they're just building it up little by little until they get to a point and say, okay, I cannot work and run my business. I now need to leave. And the business will support me. The business, I didn't have a loan, so the business can pay me when I need to pay my bills and the business bills, that sort of thing. So there are options, other than going directly for a loan. I think it's always smart
Right.
and good, like you mentioned, have a business plan, figure out how much money realistically you're going to need for that business for the year, for that 1 year, and say, also, if I don't get the revenue that I want in that year, will I have sufficient funds in reserves to cover my expenses when I have that business? So there's the planning, there's the budget, there's working with the right partners. And maybe as well, like I said, it may not necessarily mean going out and getting a loan, but also being smart and saying, actually, let's just see the business build up. Depending on your personality, I guess, and your characteristic traits, build up the business, and then once the business builds up, leave my full-time employment and then go into that and then run the business full on. Yeah,
Sound
full time.
advice there. Um, sometimes we talk about people in our community, particularly talking specifically Black community, unlike maybe some other ethnic communities. We like to go it alone.
Mm,
Um, is it always a good idea, or is it worth sometimes looking at pooling funds together or bringing different skill sets together? Yes, you'll be sharing profits with somebody else,
yeah.
but you have more stability there. What do you say to that?
I think again, that's down to your preference. So for me, I and about you what you're planning to do. So I think for me, my goal is yes to build a business by myself, but eventually I have to start thinking from now what my succession planning is. So already I'm thinking about how I'm going to pull back. Is that bringing in a partner, or isn't it handing it um, mentoring somebody internally and developing them to then hand over to them, and then I will then just be a consultant and pull back. So I think it's about your personality, your characteristics, what you plan for the future. How do you see the future of your business? So there are some people who are not risk takers,
Hmm,
so they would rather do it themselves, because I do think taking on a partner is a risk. They may not have the same graft, that spirit of grafting, that attitude of grafting like you, because it's your baby, it's your business. If
that's
this
right.
doesn't
Yeah.
go and it goes down the pan, that is your reputation, that's you. There's a big risk for you taking on that partner in the business in the initial stages, or whatever stage of the business you are at. Whereas for others, a risk seeker like me, I would probably go, yeah, I'll take on a partner, but I'll be smart about it in the sense of whether it's a friend or not a friend or just a business person. I would go down the legal route. So we'll get legal documents drawn up, have conversations, and it wouldn't just happen overnight. It would be a gradual thing as well. So I think it's about what your risk appetite is like, whether you're a risk seeker or risk averse, and making a decision about, like I said, if it is your baby, it's your business, how you see your business, your brand, your reputation. If that's holy and sacred for you, then it's very unlikely you're probably going to take in a partner, I think. I mean, that attitude of going alone, I think that is a cultural thing, in that we'd like to, we like to tough it out and do it. But I think there's another way of doing the business, in that you can get help, and it's not a sign of weakness. I don't
That's
think it's a
right.
sign of
Yeah.
weakness. Yeah.
Thank you. Very, very balanced perspectives you
Mhm.
shared there, giving different routes that people can use, again based on their personalities and the goals and what they expect out of what they're doing. And you mentioned something else, and we can talk about that maybe later. Talk about succession planning. That's very important as well. Looking ahead, how you can sustain and keep the business going forward, maybe generations. Um, the last question in the area of challenges I wanted to throw to you had to do with how to navigate systemic barriers, limited access to networks, resources while building the enterprise. I heard you say at the beginning that we have a unique scenario in the United Kingdom, you know, and I haven't yet looked at the statistics, but I've heard people throw out all kinds of statistics about only 2% of our communities contributing to the wealth. When you look at people who are very successful in the United Kingdom, we're barely represented at all, and all that.
Mhm.
And what are some of the issues here? Looking at the systemic barriers.
Um, I think, to be honest, I think it actually stems back from our mentality of okay, let me start again. Maybe looking at how people came into the UK, like my parents, for example, how you may have been viewed, the perception of Black people. Does it help some owners when they have to go out into the marketplace to represent their business or sell their business? And it's not a worries me or worries the Black community, but I think there is definitely a difference of attitude to people who are not from our community. You may come across people who think you're going to rob them, you're going to overprice them, or you don't have the skills, and you're not serious about your business. And there's a lot of weight and baggage from history, from what's happened in this country, and not only just Windrush people coming over, but in terms of slavery back in the day, how you're constantly being perceived in the business world. And I'm not even just talking about the white collar world in the sense of whether you're a business professional or not. It may even be like you're running a yoga studio. It's just that perception of Black people that we as a people have to constantly be fighting for. And even myself, with all my years of experience, I'm still having to deal with that. And something that happened last year, and even my husband, he's not white, he's Italian descent. And he said, I don't get it. That you've got more years experience than that person. Why couldn't they just have you in and run the thing, blah, blah, blah? I won't go into details. But why couldn't why can't they see you as a person to do this rather than this person that's coming? No experience. But because of an anatomy, number one, my anatomy is different. My color is different. I'm not going to get looked at. And it's quite sad. I did actually sit back and think and say, well, if that's your perception, do I really want to work with you? Or I will work with you, but it's be a case of it's a different relationship. So I think there's an issue of people of color, Black people, constantly having this fight, and I think for some people it can get weary, because it's like some people can get a breakthrough, some people they're just about thriving in their business because of these barriers, and I think it's all down to perception. Yeah, unfortunately.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just listening to you, I can just feel the gravity of the situation,
Yeah.
Wow. And so it can only take a strong mindset to overcome those sort of
Yeah.
things. Yeah, that you got very resilient, that no matter what, you're going to cut through all
And I
the
think you
noise
have
and
to make up in your
misperception.
mind that no
Mm,
matter what, you will meet the right people who want to work with you and make your business successful. So I think it's about, as much as those things will happen, where because of your anatomy, because of how you look, your stature, your color, I think it's unfortunate. I'm not going to stand in an argument or argue with you, because like the Bible says, if you argue with a fool, what does that make you look like? You understand?
mhm,
So I think for me, I will do the work. I will remain professional. I will keep working and keep pushing. But at some point, a breakthrough will come through, a breakthrough will happen, and I will meet the right group of people or the right businesses that will work with me and want to work with me, and I will want to work with them. And and it's about supporting each other and building each other up. I'm not in a rat race. I'm here to support businesses and build them up to succeed, not just for themselves, but for generational wealth, for their families, for their, so there's a
mm.
history for them and their families and their loved ones. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Very, very insightful there. And let's come to financial literacy. Mm, I mean, the core of part of the work you do, I know.
Yeah.
So, what are some common financial mistakes? I know you did talk a little bit at the beginning about a few things there, but some common financial mistakes that you've seen small business owners make and how they can avoid them.
I think the number one thing I've probably seen is where, as a small business, you think you could put everything through the business. So all your expense, when I say everything, like your expenses, certain expenses you put through the business. And I always say, if you do that, then I don't need to know. I don't want to be a part of it, because when the tax man comes and does an inspection, they're going to say, well, how are you putting this through the business? Is it wholly and exclusive for the business? Just do things right. There's a Jamaican phrase called walk good. Just be honest and act with integrity in your business, regardless of whether there's an inspection or not, so that the business can prosper. Yeah, you want to do things right so that right comes to you as well. I think the other mistake I think that happens is, or misconception is, I can just take anything out of the business. So there's cash there, there's money there, I can just take out as much as I want. But then if the business isn't making profit, you've probably taken out too much. And if you've taken out too much when there's not a profit, then there's a likelihood that if you've overspent and not overspent, taken out too much, not overtaken, taken too much out of the business as drawings or dividends, then there's a possibility that you could get taxed heavily as an individual, because basically you've taken a loan from the business and not drawings. So the tax man is going to say, HMRC are going to say, well, actually, we want 33.75% of that. Thank you very much. Whereas before, you'd probably be paying a bit less if you had done it right. So that's why it's really important to have the right support, have the right knowledge and education about what's involved, and speak with a good accountant. Yeah, so I think those things are quite crucial.
Well, it's very, 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 very revealing. I mean, what you're saying there, just somebody just thinks I mean, I guess, as you said, it's ignorance on one part. I'm not sure. Maybe everybody just trying to play a fast one, but but
I think sometimes it's not knowing. If you don't
right, yeah.
know, and then I've even had conversations with people who may not be my client, but because, oh, I spoke to a friend and they said this, or my friend's doing this in their business and they paid less tax. How am I paying more tax? And my question always is, did you speak with your accountant regularly? Where you get reports regularly to say what you should be doing and what you should be taking out, or you can't take this money out, or this is what's happening, blah, blah, blah. So it's having those regular conversations with your accountants to make sure that you don't have that fall into a trap, or have a mistake or a heavy tax bill in essence, because you weren't having the right conversations with the person responsible. I don't necessarily think it's trying to pull a fast one. Sometimes there are some that are out there to do that. There always will be. But I think genuinely people just don't understand that if you run a business, it doesn't automatically mean I could put through any expense in there and also take out money whenever I please. The business needs to be making profit for you to do that, and it's also a juggling act with balancing cash flow as well. So having a really good accountant helps.
Okay. Thank you on that point there. But before I go on to the next question, I wanted to ask you, something else came to my mind. So, do you recommend people run as sole proprietors or as run as a limited liability company? Because
I
somebody
think,
would say, well, if I go if I go sole proprietor, then I could just present anything myself. Even though I think HMRC now have gotten smart and they can look at your allowable expenses and say, no, this is too much, you know.
yeah, I think that the world of accountancy is rapidly changing, and that's due
Hmm.
to technology and how technology is affording you. I think the only thing that's probably saving us is probably human rights and data protection at the moment. I think there is a time coming where there will be investigators looking at your Facebook, looking at where you're going on holiday, how often you're spending, and blah, blah, blah. People like to promote them, show what they're doing. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think there's a day coming where those, if they're not doing it now, where they're looking at what you post on social media and then matching up with your tax returns, are going, what's going on here?
Hmm.
So I think in terms of whether you want to run as a sole trader or as a limited company, I think, again, it's down to what is your plan for the future? What is your plan for the business? Tax wise, I always say it's always best tax wise, efficiently, to run it as a limited company. However, it's about the revenue, the expenses, and everything that's coming through the business. The regularity of the services that you're providing. If it's a case of it's a business, there's things happening quite often in the month, and there's going to be expenses and all that kind of jazz, then I say run a limited company. If it's a case of, because I think running as a sole trader, you're going to get to a mark where it's going to be very tax heavy if you get into a certain bracket, if a revenue bracket or profit bracket. So I tend to just fear my clients to say, just do it through the business, but we can always manage and look at what's going on cash flow wise, and profit wise, and as long as we're having those regular conversations, nothing should really catch you off guard
Mm,
or by surprise. So again, it's just down to your preference as an individual. But my
mm.
preference would be, if the business is intending to grow, then I would say run it as a limited company from the get-go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff is a bit scary now. Thinking about people showing up all the blings and all that, and then you just put only made X amount of money.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
wow. Okay.
I just think it's just down to technology and how people can access information easily online
Right.
now. So
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Uh, moving on to the same area of financial literacy, what's your advice when it comes to budgeting, cash flow management, planning? I know, I guess the details of this would happen when people sign people like you up, then they get
Mm.
to know some of it. But is there something like a basic knowledge, even if somebody didn't have an accountant, that they need to read up or go some resource or something like that?
I think I'm like you said, I'm not a big fan of. There are certain, if you're running a business, I think there are certain things that I don't think you should do yourself.
Okay.
I think if it's a non-core activity of your business, outsource it. So I think in terms of the budgeting, cash flow, and planning for long term, that's quite an in-depth, detailed part of your business that for a sole business owner to do themselves would be quite involved. However, if they do think they want to do that, I'm not a fan of spreadsheets, but if you find spreadsheets are easier, then do it in a spreadsheet. I prefer technology in terms of software, in terms of
Hmm.
there's an audit trail. Sometimes things happen in spreadsheets. You're like, oh, what happened here? And you can't trace it back. And you spend hours on end trying to figure out what's happened in the spreadsheet. Whereas within a software, you can quite sleepily clear what's happened. If you undo it, you can see why you undid it and you can redo it, or you could start afresh. So I would say make an investment in a software that you can use. There are two that come to mind for cash flow. I think one's called Futurely, and the other one I cannot remember now. It's a different one, but it's a cheaper
Hmm.
type to Futurely. And those are really good cash flow software that you can link to any accounting software, and you can run that yourself. And that way you can see quite clearly each month, because it's linked to the software and the software is linked to your bank account, your business bank account. It would do it automatically for you, and you could
Hmm.
just tweak it to say, well, I'm paying out a big fat payment this month or this quarter, or blah blah blah, or I'm going to invest in some IT equipment and this is going to happen. So how does the cash look like further on down the line? So there are really good software out there that you can use. If I remember the other cash flow application, I'll drop you a line.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Mm.
Wow. So, okay. So, well, entrepreneurs, there are tools out there that can give you some information to guide you. But of course, the best would always be hire the experts so you can focus on what you like to do best.
Mm.
Right. I'm not sure if we've covered this already, but any specific tax accounting tips that would help small businesses maximize their financial health?
I'm not a financial advisor, but
Okay.
what I would say is, because I'm not registered with FCA and don't
Mhm.
work in that line of business. However, in terms of running a business, I always say, and I think again, it depends on your attitude to pensions. There's been a lot of negativity in the press about pensions, but that is one of the ways to reduce your tax efficiently as a business owner. So that's putting your pension costs through the business. Again, even if you don't put it through the business, but you put it through, pay it from your personal funds, again, that is tax efficient to you when it comes around to do your self-assessment tax, because again, they will
Mm.
use that to change the bracket of your tax in your tax return. But pension is one way to go. In terms of the corporation tax, again, there are ways. It depends on the industry that you're in. So if you're
Yeah.
manufacturing, you may have capital, a lot of capital equipment that you've bought. You can use that to reduce your corporation tax because of capital allowances that you have. There may be also research and development. It might be, again, niche because of the sector that you're in, whether that's research development, creating an app. You may be able to get research development tax relief on that. So there are other things that you can do. It just depends on the type of business that you're running. But in terms of like a typical day-to-day business, the basic things that I tell people is look at your, funny enough, donations is a good one as well as
mm,
pensions. Those are really
mhm,
two good things to make it to be tax efficient, I should say. Yeah,
mm.
yeah,
Okay, so it's nice to give donations then.
yeah.
Um, give to your local church or charity or something like that as well. Okay.
I think there's always
Um,
an example that I always use or
mm,
look at. It's not really. I know there's a history behind this guy, but Rockefeller, who was an American businessman, read upon him and have a go Google him and see what he did. And then one thing that's associated with him is a lot of about how much he gave and how much he became successful because of that. So
mm,
that's always a reference to look at.
mm. Yeah, I think I remember a couple of months back, I came across a little article about the way he
Mm,
used to give, and that's what caused his oil business and other investments to boom.
yeah.
So well, that's good. It's good to know that people are not thinking of themselves alone. Right.
Mm,
I'm trying to look at our time here,
yeah.
and I still have quite a bit to talk about. So let me jump to. I was going to throw some questions relating to scaling up a business, but I will shelve that for now and just come to maybe community and legacy
Yeah.
areas. How important do you think it is to build a strong network and community for Black business owners, and how can they go about doing this? I mean, apart from the one you mentioned about maybe like having family support, are there other maybe networks that would help people?
I think that's always a difficulty that I find in the UK. Well, let me be specific in London. There are a lot of networks out there. Um, but I think when I look at the ratios of Black representation, I guess, it's very small, very limited in those networking groups. But I think there's a reason for that. But in terms of like, if you can't find it, then build it yourself.
Hmm.
And I think that's something me and a few friends will be looking into this year. In that, if you don't find the network that is there, build one yourself. Not
Hmm.
necessarily for profit for gain, but as a way to say, let's bring together, look about supporting our community, not just us right now who are running our own business, but in terms of the generation that's coming up. Leave a legacy, how we're mentoring ourselves, mentoring each other, but then how we're mentoring the people that are coming up behind us to say, we want to do business, we need the support. And then again, hand it over, that succession, hand it over to them so
Hmm.
that they could do the same for the next generation.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that's about, I think if it's not there, then build it yourself, I think. And that there is a networking group around. I've never been to it, the Black Business Show. I always say I always go, but it's always at the wrong time of the year for me. But
Hmm.
again, if you want that consistent networking, it would I assume going to that show would be amazing to go to because you make so much connection, networking, meet new people that you align with, that align with your values of your business, etc. But in terms of like the day to day or the month to month, where you need somebody to call upon and to support you, and you want to meet up once a week, I think if it's not there, then think about, well, what can I do to start that up in my own
Hmm.
area?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And hopefully you'll be able to find a couple of good people who share the same vision of building
Yeah.
that. I do
Yeah.
remember probably 5 years ago, I got invited to some group on one of these Black business things, and I was kind of excited. So I went in and took some time to organize a couple of presentation sessions relating
Mm,
to social media, branding, and how they could. And we're all excited about it. But
mm.
along the way, it almost looked like, okay, we've got what we want. And so
Okay.
that didn't come across very
Mm,
well to me, in
yeah,
that
yeah.
we need to be more open about things we want to do. And I thought, okay, this is my contribution to make something work. So I think it's finding the right people who understand these things and working alongside with them. I went to the British business show recently at the Excel, and
Mm,
over 500 companies represented there, but the black-owned companies were just dots
mm,
in there, and I thought, oh, we need to have a lot more of them. Talented people. I mean, you go around, look at them, and you see what you're doing, but it's just getting the. Having said that, there were a couple of sessions I went to that you had people who had maybe black supporting them. So I
yeah,
think across the board, we need it both ways. Supporting. It doesn't always have to be maybe blacks, maybe supporting some other race-led thing. It should also
mm,
be the other way around,
yeah,
believing in what the people have and helping their communities as well. Yeah. Mm.
definitely agree.
What steps can we take to build a lasting legacy within industries, communities? You talked about Rockefeller. We hear the name today. It
Mm,
didn't die.
mm,
CNN used to run a show many years ago. They talked about um, companies that had lasted more than 100 years, and I loved watching the show because that for a company to last more than 100 years, there's something they've been doing. And I heard you talk about succession planning because even as individuals, we don't think that much more for a business. And so you hear somebody who's great and he's done so well, he or she's done so well, and then the next generation comes and we don't hear anything about them again. What can we do to help build that kind of community? I mean, you talk about working with legal firms and all that. Do we have some that are known? I remember in the tailoring business, you hear of the Savile Row and all that. And,
yeah,
people here, way before I came to live in this country, I knew about places like that. And could we talk about businesses that people know of that clout or nature? How do we build those sort of things? Lasting legacy. What can individuals? I mean, you can't. We are not maybe at a mosque level, but what can
yeah.
we do at our level right now?
I think it's about attitude. To be fair, I think is your attitude as a business owner just a case of I'm doing this for now, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just about how you view yourself, the future, your business. So there's nothing wrong with saying, actually, I'm just working on this business just to help me do this, reach this goal. Once I've reached the goal, I'll close the business down. Um, I think if you, I love listening to podcasts. I listen to podcasts about big companies like Apple, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Macy's, and
Mhm.
some of those businesses, when you look at the background, how people started, how they kept it going. Like I said at the beginning, it's about your attitude, about how you view your business. For me, my business, I'm hoping my business is not just a just a just a short term thing. I want it to be there that even when I'm dying or on my deathbed, that probably won't be my focus, but it'd be a case of that business will still be going because I've thought about succession planning. I've looked about finding the right people that share the same goals, vision, and strategy that I have for my business. I want to see that business have longevity, substance in the community, and that takes time to build. I think there is an issue about we live in a culture where of instant gratification. We want it now.
Mm.
There's no thing about. I listened to someone talk. I don't know if it was Michelle Obama or Oprah. I don't know because sometimes you watch things on social media. I don't know if it's them or if it's AI. But I saw the thing underneath saying there's this thing about wanting success now and not realizing it takes grafting to get to a certain level. Um, there's a writer, I can't remember her name, Bev something, that is a phrase is it gets better later. And she talks about how her life improved after she was 50 in terms of changing her life around. She's a speaker, a business owner, whatever. So I think it's about attitude, how you perceive your business. What do you want from your business? Just a here and now thing, or do you want to see it last for generations to come and hold its weight? Not
Mm.
necessarily like Pepsi or Coca-Cola or Apple, but it's going to be known. It's going to be something that's going to be on the website saying it's been around for 150 years. You may not be around, but someone's build remembers that
That's right.
where it started from, why it started, the vision, the goal, and will keep that going, and they will have that same attitude to the business and only employ people of like-minded people to build
Mm,
it. So I think that the attitude, that the of how you see your business is really important.
mm.
Yeah.
Very, very insightful there. And I
Mm.
think there's something I wanted to pick on that point as we draw close to the end of the session. It's not just about having an entrepreneurial skill. You talk about
Mm.
attitude, but I think being an entrepreneur and being a leader are not the same. You can
Yes.
lead
Yeah.
a bit,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can run a business, but you may not necessarily be leading people. You're not
Mm.
visionary enough to see beyond the horizon what the next
Exactly.
thing would be, because lead a team of volunteers where we support a local charity.
Okay.
And I always tell them, look, what we are doing here, we are building for the future.
Yeah.
And when you create, you cast a vision before the people, it helps them. They know this is why they wake up and want to be part of this, because they could be using their time to do, they're not being paid for it anyway, but it keeps them going, and I think it's an important aspect of it. You also talked about the delayed gratification, which sometimes you find maybe across we're talking about diaspora now, but it applies in many places. As soon as they have a little money, I
Yeah.
read a statistic in America that African Americans make up 12% of the population, and yet they consume 27% of luxury goods.
Wow.
That is not a good a
Mm.
good statistic, if you understand what I'm
Mm.
saying. So I don't know if there are people who feel, okay, I want to run my business so I can show.
Mm.
It's more than that. I think what you're basically saying is that we should build something that future generations can thank us for.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
somebody did not build the Pepsi, the Coca-Cola, Macy's, and all these companies you mentioned, there'll be no jobs for some people.
Yeah.
So create the jobs that people in the future would also, and I think that's something important that our community needs to take on board.
That there's nothing wrong with buying luxury brands. I think it's, again, who are you doing it for? You know what I mean? It's does it, I don't know. I think for me, I don't necessarily need to show it. I like cars, so that's my thing. I like a nice car. But in terms of, do I need to have the most expensive right now? No, because my budget won't allow. So I think it's about, as my gran would say, hang your basket where you can reach it. So so it's a case of, do what's within your bracket, within your wage bracket. I'm not trying to impress anybody. I'm always just trying to do my thing, do what I can with the God-given intellect or education that I have, and to help somebody else build up their business and build mine and help support young people, that sort of thing. So I think there's nothing wrong with treating yourself, but I think my thing is
Yeah.
just
Mm.
be realistic, and it's not about show, it's about substance. I think substance. Yeah.
Very balanced. I like that.
Mm.
Thank you.
Mm.
Yes, you can
Mm.
have some comfort, but
Mm.
not opulence and excesses. All right. Um, um, one very important question here before we maybe we look at maybe you and your business. Um, mentorship. What's it? How important is mentorship, and how can established owners give back to the next generation of Black entrepreneurs? I know you got somebody who you linked up with that helped you.
Mm.
Important is it? I know it could be sacrificial, but what do you say?
I think in terms of mentorship, I'm a big fan of, again, I think it's your background, your personality. Whichever job I've ever been in, there's always an element of me doing some sort of training, some sort of mentorship. Um, I remember working with a lady once. I said she just had a baby. I said, go up. She goes, oh, I'm thinking about this. I said, go and do your university degree if you can. If you have the support of your partner, if you can, if in the sense of he will help you with a baby, you can leave work and do it full time and get it done, do that. So I'm always going to support people to, if that's what they want to do, go down the route of education. If it's mentoring, like right now, I've hired someone new. They're grass green. They have no idea about working full stop in a profession, in this type of profession. So I'm my personality is I want to help, I want to support you, I want you to push you further. I'm even saying to them, if you don't want to hang around after you've learned everything, that's fine by me. Go out, get some more experience and do, grow, because that's what I want people to do, grow. So I think that's a personal thing. I think that's, I wouldn't say it's a calling, but I think that's something that you have to want to do. I wouldn't say do it just because it's a tick box exercise or you feel you have to. I think it's something that you have to see that for yourself as an individual, as a business owner, to say, actually, I want to do that for, not for me, for the next generation, build them up, give them understanding about what it is to work as a Black individual in this country, what you need to do to show up at work and how you need to present yourself. So it may not necessarily be business wise in terms of accountancy or the skills or the education, but in terms of practical life experiences as well. How you run your household, how you look after your finances, all those things. When you buy your house or get a house, and what you need to do. My sister just bought a flat in London. She was very smart, very savvy. She was living in renting somewhere, but while she was renting, they have this phrase called bottom drawer saving, bottom drawer things. So what they do is, in the culturally, if you would know this, probably know this, not necessarily everybody, while you're renting and saving for that, your own place, with a house or flat that you're going to buy for yourself, you would have your own bottom drawer. So those are bed sheets,
That's right.
plates, knives, forks. So rather than going out and eating every time, she'll say, okay, I eat out once or twice a month, but this is where I'm going to put my money and buy my plates, my pots, my
Awesome.
pans, my bed sheets, and things like that. Those practical little things that you can teach the younger generation, so that when they go into a new apartment where they're like, oh, I ain't got no money to buy anything. I've got no money to buy my bed or sofa or anything like that. Those are the type of mentorships I think is needed today. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Wow. Yes, we need a lot more of that, so that we are also not just job seekers. I see. So I heard somebody talking the other day. Actually, it was a pastor, and he said there are too many of our community who are job seekers. We should be job creators. So,
Yeah.
but yes, but
Mm.
it takes people like you to help people establish themselves as well, so they can do it properly. Let's come
And
to this. Sorry, you wanted to
no,
say
no, no, I was
something?
just going on for what your pastor said as well. I think
Mm,
sometimes it's that fear about
mm,
whether I can do it. And like I
that's
said at the
right.
beginning, there
Mm,
is a lot of baggage that we take on unintentionally or unknowingly because of how we're perceived as a community. So maybe they have that desire to create the business, but it's just a thing of, they thought, well, can I even do it? Because of that perception of how you are received. Will I even get the support? Will I get the business? So there's a
mm,
lot of stuff that they have to carry and think about in order to step out and say that they want to start their business. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
but it is doable.
It's doable. It's doable.
Yes.
If you fear it, if you do it afraid, as the saying is, do it afraid.
Right. Good. Right. Okay. Last two questions here. One, what resources would you recommend for Black entrepreneurs who are just starting out? I know there
um,
could be loads of different things, but off the top of your head.
Black resources. I think I'm very keen on. I'm always about updating my information. So whether, not because it's required by CPD, but I like learning new things. I like reading articles. I get ideas that way. So read articles, whether it's the what's it called, the Economic Weekly or something like that, or it doesn't have to be the Financial Times. If you're not a big reader, there are loads of podcasts, audiobooks
Yeah.
on Spotify, Apple, Google Music, all over the shop now. Look at find a podcast or an audiobook that speaks to you and what you need, where you're planning to go. So I think that would be helpful. So if you're not a big reader, podcasts and things like that, audiobooks. Again, networking. Sometimes, like you said, some people might have that thing of, I have to do this alone. You don't have to. You can, but you don't have to. It's that saying about how far someone walks, if they're walking by themselves or if they're walking with somebody, how far they get. So I think find a good network, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a black one, but if the network fits with you, where you're going, your goal, work with that network and see where it takes you. And I think those are the main things I would say in terms of resources to use if you're a business owner. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. On the final note or final question, but a very important question, how can the audience connect with you or Kale Consultancy if they need support? Obviously, there'll be business people who'll be watching this, people who also may be thinking of starting their business, but particular people who already started, who don't really keep their books, and just hope that they can get by there. How can they connect with you if they need further support with your business or for growth?
If they'd like to connect with me, I'm on Instagram at Kale Accounts. I'm also contactable via LinkedIn. Again, just contact me as Lillian Oliveri on LinkedIn, and I'm on some different platforms, but I don't remember. But probably the best way to probably connect with me is on my either Instagram, LinkedIn, or my website is a great place to go to. So my website again is kaleaccounts.com. And happily just send me a message and I'll happily reach out back to whoever contacts me.
Right. Okay. So they should use those methods. Not any email, or they would find an email address on one.
If they go on my website, there's a form, a contact form.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just send me
Right.
a message by that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Lillian, this has been a very revealing, exciting, insightful session. Thank you so much for your insights, your wisdom, and it's been a very exciting time. I've really enjoyed it. I've learned a lot myself, even though I've been doing business for a while, but thank you so much for the things you've said there. I'm going to implement some privately. And yes, what's your final note to somebody who is watching, a young Black boy, Black girl thinking of running a business? What would you say to them as somebody who's run a business?
I think regardless of what's happened historically, whether generationally in your family or in this country, you can do it. All you need is the right support, be level-headed, and make wise decisions and make choices. I'm also a big believer of show me your friends and I tell you who you are. Have a good community, a good tribe. It doesn't have to be a big group. I know people, but I only have probably 4 or 5 close friends, and that includes my husband. So find your tribe that are going to support you and be very honest and real about what you're doing, how you run your business. So I think, yes, you can do it. Yes, you can make that business successful and succeed. But I think find the right support network for you and for your vision.